All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nunn. My audio did not work the way I wanted. I had some cool stuff spun up. But hey, we had some new bumper music, Toby, for October. I'm just saying. Yeah, no, I see that. Yeah, for some reason, my initial music blasted. My meters went solid red. I'm like, I'm blowing eardrums and speakers out. Uh, but yeah, I got some new stuff. I got to change it up. You know, it is FY21 in the federal government now. It is the new year in the Fed. So it's one step closer to being out of 2020. So I did through that. We had October. We got a monumental day anniversary coming up in 2 days, which we may talk about later. And so I just thought, you know what? Let me throw some new music out there. Let me throw Toby for a loop. Why he sports that very good-looking Veteran Outdoors shirt and Kermode hat, opposite of me. Which we didn't time this, we didn't coordinate this, but you've got the Kermode hat and shirt, and I'm wearing the VO hat and Kermode shirt. So that's. I knew it was. I didn't want to make you have to, stress out and show off there. But and this show, along with Veteran Outdoors. You've got the cheesy, yeah, man. I mean, you should have been the moderator at the debates with that voice. That would have been awesome. You'd have been like, that's right. That's it. That's right. Yeah. How are they getting zero audio from? I don't understand. They, I got you, Lima Charlie, and 5x5. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so I'm seeing can't hear Toby. Yeah, I don't know why they would not. There is something going on with audio. Let me just be clear about that. I can see that now. Um, Let me see what I can do here. Um, yeah. No. There we go. Let me bring him. Yeah, we do. Hold on a second. I do have an audio mixing board issue going on. There's no doubt. So let me. I may have to cut off of headphones and just throw it up on regular speakers. Well, I don't. I want to. I want to keep things moving. What's that?
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
Oh, there it is.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's better. Um, let me
Improving.
let me see what people are saying. Nope, that's not. It's not working. Hold on. Um,
Apparently, my hockey number keeps getting referenced because it's like I have Toby 0x0.
yeah,
Uh,
is that your hockey number?
no, it's 44 actually. But
Yeah, I am having. Toby, can you believe it? I am having technical issues here.
I
Um,
don't. It's
that
it's
does
a
not
conspiracy
happen.
theory.
That does not happen often. I'm gonna try to do a quick thing here. Hold on a second.
I really, really like these episodes, because this is the ones that people that are watching us live. They help us work through some bullshit,
Yeah,
and that like then someone goes and listens to it on like iTunes or iHeartRadio or Spotify or whatever, and they're like, uh, "What's wrong with these guys?"
yes. All right. You guys can hear me okay. It is definitely not coming across our Spreaker. I'm guessing, can people hear me? Um, I'm just, I'm trying to make, I'm really at a lo- Okay. Let me get him started. I'm going to work on the Spreaker feed. It's still got issues, but I am going to I'm going to bring out Rick, and if I can find him here. There he is. There we go. All right. Hey, Rick, welcome to the show. I'm going to let Toby work with you while I work with our stuff here.
Of War HOGG Tactical is joining us, and he is going to solve all our tactical problems. Not our technical problems, because Troy's doing that right now, but our tactical problems. So, Rick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Toby.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I'm glad you recognize that I have you because Troy, he's over there
Well,
doing some like
yeah,
some
he's tinkering, classic Echo fashion. Hey, can't get comms, let's get him up, but it's all good.
Hold on,
no, no,
I'm about to put up a Steiner aid in a second and just start like.
People won't even know what that is.
For you legs
now,
out there, Google Steiner aid. That's all I'm
you're
going to say.
dating yourself with a Steiner aid. That's awesome. I haven't heard that in a long time.
He Troy doesn't know if audio is bad or not because he was a Charlie, so he can't hear anything anyway. It's Bravo. Like we can still.
Yeah. Well, we got audio back now. I found the cause. The cause was being mobile last week and not resetting from traveling in a hotel room doing a show. I didn't reset everything back to this, so I will do my push-ups later after the show and after I'm done with this wonderful I.W. Harper small batch bourbon. So,
but only
Nice.
only do 25 push-ups.
oh, I was going for 10, but okay. Yeah, I'm retired now. God, I've been retired for 11 years. I think I'll do 11. How's that?
Yeah,
There you
well,
go.
I mean, by the time you do one for like the airborne god, the ranger god, the Charlie god, like you'll work your way up. You'll work your way up.
Okay. All right.
We are excited to have you on the show. We got all your stuff up here now. You're populated. Everyone can see your smiling face. Um, so let's talk, Rick. Let's talk about what it's like to retire out of the military after a couple of years and then find yourself doing what you did in the military for the American people. Because I think that's an interesting transition. We're seeing it more and more. But let's just do a brief overview just for our listening audience so they know a little bit about you,
Sure.
what you did, basically over your time, and then we'll get into what you're doing now, and then we got a plethora of questions.
Yeah, so Rick Hogg with War HOGG Tactical. I'm a 29-year U.S. Army Special Operations combat veteran. I've taken my time as a Special Forces Advanced Urban Combat Instructor, a SOF K9 handler, and my 13 combat deployments, and I've harnessed War HOGG Tactical. We provide mobile firearms, tactical, and K9 training to law-abiding citizens, military, and law enforcement agencies. We also consult for both the defense and firearms industry. And hopefully, once all this pandemic stuff wears down and our supply trains get back, we'll have a product line launching shortly. But as you know, that's a little bit of a holdup right now. So
Wow, he knows that so well, that elevator pitch. It almost sounded like he was reading it, but he was rolling that off the top of his head.
He's got the teleprompter app on his phone going right now.
yeah.
No,
but I mean, you bring up an important point, right? Because you're talking about the whole transition. And one of the things I think it's key for guys to understand is, number one, I recommend everyone go into business for themselves. Because, for me, I worked for the man for 29 years. So I wanted to be the man versus working for the man. An elevator pitch, man, you've got to have it. And trust me, did it always flow that smooth? It did not. It took a lot of work, a lot of caressing. Hey, how do you trim it down to the shortest, portion, but still get your point across and, take it from there. But, the thing you kind of hit on earlier is Uncle Sugar does not do the best job setting you up for success, getting out to be an entrepreneur. They'll set you up to write a resume, do a job interview. But as far as being an entrepreneur. I'll give you a prime example. For me, I walked out thinking, man, I'm at like the 80% solution. I got it. I don't have all the answers, but I feel good. And that was the furthest thing from the truth. So, um, definitely some hurdles, learn every day when you're out. So yeah, it's and I probably work harder now than I did when I was in.
But
What's the term, Toby? Veteranpreneur? How's that?
entrepreneur, yeah.
Venturepreneur. I mean, we've had guys on recently in the past few weeks that started their own pre-workout and nutritional supplements. We've had guys that came up with their own barbecue rubs and spices. I mean, we got what you do. I mean, it's across the board, and it is so encouraging to see people, especially get out of the combat arms and sit there and think, oh, I can be as a freaking cop or security guard, right? And get out and say, the world is mine. The world is my oyster, right? Just
Yep.
like Tony Montana.
But still, you hit the nail on the head, man. Guys, it's all about purpose, right? And your passion. So there's guys like you said, combat arms, whatever MOS you've got. Man, if you like to barbecue and that's your passion, and you've got some magical secret rub, or you like woodworking or metal or whatever it is, do it. For me, the whole War HOGG Tactical thing, understand this. It wasn't one of these deals that, man, 2017, I'm getting to retire. What do I do? So to set some things kind of in motion. So in my little elevator pitch, I talked about being a Special Forces Advanced Urban Combat instructor. So this was all pre-GWAT. So 7th Group was really the first group to get the Special Forces Advanced Urban Combat going. And really, our group commander was phenomenal. He took this thing hook, line, and sinker and said, boys, run with it. Team Sergeant picked us out, and we pretty much had carte blanche to do what we want. Long story short, 9/11 happens, and I speculate when I say this, but it was 5th, and then 7th Group was like next in the hopper to go. I believe it was because we had actually established by that point, Cephalic 2, we were training at a company level operations. So now when the guys come back, from that initial rotation in Afghanistan, and they come back and find me and go, hey man, that stuff you taught me saved my life. That's really when War HOGG Tactical was established. It's like, boom, okay, I got it. And then obviously, end up doing some time in SWIC, 2004, go back operational. 13 trips later, you get all that experience, and now I take that out to, both the civilian, military, and law enforcement communities and give them a skill. And I always tell them this, God forbid that you have to use it. I hope you never do. But if you do, you've got that skill and you're coming home at night.
No, like that's I agree with everything you just said, and I want to caveat on something you opened up with in the transition, and you're right. There's a lot of classes, there's a lot of briefings, there's a lot of box checking, for how to get a job, right? But a lot of guys, we're seeing Angrills, no disrespect. A lot of folks, a lot of our brothers and sisters in arms getting out, they find themselves in a capacity where they just corporate culture and military culture, they clash. You would think that they don't, but they kind of do. And they clash because military culture is, we used to joke about, hurry up and wait and all that stuff. And, like, well, you're going to do that in the rest of your life too. But military culture is a task-oriented culture. It's mission focused, it's task oriented, and it's focused on, getting it done. And then backwards planning off, knowing what like the intent is or what, the culmination of it is going to be, and then building the evolutions backwards to accomplish that goal. And we're not time oriented, like we feel like we have to figure it out by a certain point, and deadlines and these things, like, they actually mean something to us, because like if we don't pull our end and we don't cross the phase line when we're supposed to cross that phase line, we don't establish that inner cordon at the time that we're supposed to establish that cordon, it screws everything else up, and the stakes are real. Like the cost is real. And then you get in the corporate world and it's like, well, we're going to do this assessment, we're doing the SWOT analysis, and we're going to drill down on this, and we're going to disrupt that, and we're going to find our synergy on this. And like, we're like, whoa, we just like, what's the problem? What's the end? Okay, we got to get there. and these things, those classes, how to build your resume, they're archaic, they're antiquated, they're out of date, because by the time like someone comes up with the new plan on how to write a resume, like, well, resumes are really a thing of the past now, like
Yep.
CVs are out there, and that's important, to like have that, that CV, that collection of work, that curriculum of that task of your work. But for the most part, like, they don't prepare you in that sense to be an entrepreneur or entrepreneur. But what they do teach you, especially those of us that spent time in the combat arms, I was just a simple knuckle dragging Neanderthal, but
But
I
don't
learned.
here's the thing, Toby, don't
I
cut
learned.
yourself down, man.
No, like I say that as a joke because
Yeah.
like I learned the 5 paragraphs of an op order, and because I understand the 5 paragraphs of an op order, I can build a business plan.
Yep.
And because I can do all that, and because the first and the second paragraph are important, that third paragraph like comes a lot easier. And that's what building a business is. I'm a vetrepreneur myself. I've started a couple of companies. Like, and like, we know how to solve problems. COVID happens, you're talking about bringing out, like, product line. Like, I launched an apparel company in the height of COVID. I didn't know COVID was going to happen when we like ordered all our stuff and did our prototyping, our product testing. That was all done. And then when it comes down to like mainline manufacturing our products, and all of a sudden, because one of the places I decided to do it was in China, and like, I learned a valuable lesson.
Yeah.
But
even with U.S. manufacturing.
But I learned those skills by doing my job.
Yeah.
And the skills that I learned, the troop leading procedures, MET-T, these simple things, like those 8 troop leading procedures, the 11 principles of leadership, understanding battle focused training. Like,
Toby, I think the biggest one is MDMP, right? The decision making military decision making process. I think overrides everything, right?
Yeah, and you're like,
yeah.
Well, you might not get a class on it. One of the reasons I did exceptionally well, I crashed and burned into civilian world just like most people do. I like you said 80% solution. I was a cocky, arrogant son of a gun, and I thought I was at 98. And man, I crashed and burned, and like did a drag across the drop zone and everything. I did everything wrong. But when I finally got given an opportunity to do business development, and man, all that was like building a target package. That was building a 5-paragraph op order. That was like sitting down and like doing it old school, like step by step by step. And I had those skills because that's what war fighting is. And like coming back but identifying the difference, because it's the same thing. I was like, well, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. Like, critical thinking, problem solving, that's what we're good at. I mean, if a private can figure out how to steal a Humvee door in a motor pool, he can figure out how to like start a business.
Yeah. Totally.
So Rick, Toby covered a lot of stuff there. I'm going to pause it for a second because you covered a lot of stuff. But I mean, did you see yourself applying a lot of those same skills from the military?
Yeah, 100%. And that's what people don't get, right? So, the decision-making process, problem solving, that's all entrepreneurship, kind of 101, because you think about it, doing the Boost to Business class, they're pretty much the only thing I got out of that was go to SBA and get a loan. Okay. Yeah. Didn't talk about marketing, didn't talk about logo, didn't talk about, trademark, patents, NDAs, anything that you're going to deal with business-wise. So it's like anything else. Through experience, you kind of learn some of these lessons. You go to a business meeting, right? Next thing you know, somebody asks you for your NDA. Now you're scrambling because you're behind the power curve. Well, you got me once, you're not going to get me twice. So it's things like that. And I hear a lot of guys out there that, man, I can't do that. Yes, you can, because you look at it from the scheme of, going from military to civilian, you're still applying the same thing. I don't care what your MOS is, somewhere in there, you've got leadership, you've got decision-making. You can take your skills and apply those to the business side. It's just, you got to understand, and Toby, you hit up a great point. Corporate America, horrible to work with. So from my standpoint, reaching out to different businesses, man, they want to drag their feet. It's like, dude, we got to execute now. I've got an opportunity. It's like you go to a company, I have an opportunity for you to do X or to, whatever the case may be. And then you're having to basically feed them what to do. And I'm like, guys, you guys should already be on this. You're the professional company. I'm just the lone wolf, S Corp trying to, learn as I go each day. And I'm giving you guys, a major corporation, tips and strategies. It's like, come on, guys. So just for the, the viewers, listeners out there, if you're getting ready to retire from the military, a couple things to understand. Number one, I don't think the military starts soon enough getting that whole transition process in there. So a prime example, let's look at, hey, if you ever want to bid on a government contract, if you wait until you get out to establish your business and everything else, you're already 3 years behind the power curve, because the VA is not going to establish you as a service disabled veteran-owned small business unless you've been in business for 3 years. Would have been nice to know 3 years ago, because you can still apply, for your business while you're in.
Yeah, you can have a business license. You may not do a whole bunch, but you can have one.
Exactly. But you're getting the wheels in motion. And granted, times have changed since I was in. I think they're loosening up a little bit what you can and can't do on social. I mean, I stepped out not even knowing anything about social. I don't call it social media. To me, it's social marketing. That's how I get my word out there, what I'm doing, my advertising.
I was going to ask you, let me jump in real quick. We talked before the show about social media and all that's out there. Does it not translate right from IO, right? We do in the military, we establish a narrative and do IO, and that's marketing and media presence, right? It's public relations.
Totally. But it's just working the techie side of knowing each platform and how they work.
Right.
So like, for example, for me, Instagram's a lot easier. I still haven't quite mastered Facebook. LinkedIn, I'm kind of out there. Twitter, it just rolls over from Instagram, but how do, that's part of it, is how do you capitalize? And again, I got it. They're free platforms, right? So any of these social media platforms, if anyone thinks they're anything other than an advertising agency, you're wrong, because that's what they are. And oh, by the way, especially if you're in the firearms industry, they're going to sit there and reduce how much people can see you. But you've got to understand, all right, that's what I'm dealing with. But now you got to start working that network, right? So a lot of guys get out, and I kind of made the same mistake. Hey man, I'm getting out running my business. I should have done a better job basically pulling out that Rolodex. Who's already retired? Who can I reach out to? Where are my fellow veterans? Because 3 years later, man, you get your SF brothers behind you. And that now you go from a one man trying to push it, where they're helping you to push it, you're helping to push their stuff, and you get a mutual camaraderie that you had in the military back out in the business world, and then boom, you're out there crushing it.
Yeah, but I got one question for you. I want to jump in real quick. Is
Sure.
You have a very unique skill set, and what you do in War HOGG, is very specialized. But I got to say, it seems to be short of the canine side of what War HOGG does. The tactical, the employment, the firearms, advanced firearms instruction, that kind of stuff. I mean, there seems to be more and more of that springing up. Not as much as probably military T-shirt companies, or at least used to be. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that seems to be starting to become a pretty common business. Not that there's probably not more than enough for everybody, but do you find yourself running into competition now in your space?
Not really. I mean, like you said, there's enough work for everybody. So you got to look at it. We've had record sales of firearms this year, out of control, right? Yep. Which is awesome. Don't get me wrong. But the key part is people, hopefully collectively across the board, all these firearms instructor, whether you're new, veteran, whatever the case may be, you've got to inform these new firearms owners, hey man, you need training. So you can have whatever tool you want, but if you don't know how to work that tool, it doesn't matter. And that's really the message that needs to get passed along is, if you're a first time firearms owner, get out there, get training. So again, like I said, if you ever have to use it, God forbid, you've got the skill set to do it. And there's some mindset stuff that has to go in there. And again, at War HOGG, we approach things a little bit different. So we try to plug things in the most realistic. So I take, both battlefield experience, teaching experience, and we bring that to the range, where I take the range and not look at it as this kind of administrative area. This is where we're going to fight at. This is where we're going to learn to fight and do business. So like one of the things that I do is I have people bring old T-shirts in. Why? Because am I going to shoot at a guy that's made of paper in the real world? Nope, ain't happening. So at least by introducing a t-shirt, and I let them shoot it on their own, because there's some lessons I want to teach guys. And then once they shoot it on their own a little bit, we stop, we walk down collectively, we look at all these different shirts, because guys will bring all kinds of different things out. We talk about them, we look at the impacts on the clean target that's behind. Now I get in and go, all right, guys, check it out. Here's how you need to do it. Here's your reference points to be able to make those critical shots to stop that threat, so that, no more harm's coming to you, your family members, and you're going home at night.
It's interesting you bring that up. I do some training, and I do some direct essentially force on force with some pretty high end airsoft stuff to get people used to how to do things, and provide different security measures. And in a side thing I do, and it's the one comment I've heard there and others is like, we're so trained and ingrained that we don't point a gun at someone unless you mean to kill them, that some of these folks that have not been military or law enforcement background especially pause when they're pointing pretty much what looks, feels, and weighs just like a Glock or anything, or 1911, at someone else, and are pulling a trigger, because it's in our DNA, right? It's become muscle memory. Now, don't point a gun at someone, and it's easy when it's got an orange tip and it's plastic, but don't point a gun at somebody unless you mean to kill them. And it kind of gives them a pause, or looking someone in the face. But I never thought about putting shirts on targets. It gives them a little bit of a human factor. That's pretty interesting that you go along that way.
Yeah, you have to. But, Troy, you bring up a great point, too. Think about this, right? Not only from the firearms perspective, how many people have been pulled out of their vehicles here lately? Quite a few. And if you think about it, the same concept flows over, because we're not trained to hit things in our vehicle. Here's the deal. You've got to have that mental mindset. I'm in this 3,000-pound bullet weapon, whatever you want to call it, and someone is going to cause me bodily harm or try to do something to me or my family. I'm not going to bail out of that thing and try to fight them with my firearm. I got 3,000 pounds to maneuver and do business. But your average person isn't going to think like that. It's all a mindset deal. And mindset's kind of one of these loose terms, but you've got to be in it to win it. And I'm not out there looking for a fight, but man, you bring a fight to me, and trust me, I'm going to end it. But if I'm in the vehicle, prime example, a guy stands in front, am I going to sit in, let's say he pulls out a pistol. Am I going to try to draw my pistol, shoot through the glass, not knowing where that first round's going to go? Or am I just going to hit the gas pedal and, you know what, your wheel grease, and I'm getting out of there, leaving the area? Yep. Right. I'll call the police on the way, say, hey, dude, here's what happened. But, you got to get in that mindset. And like you said, you bring up a great point, because I'm a big proponent of airsoft. I wasn't before, but actually this year at SHOT Show, I was able to shoot one at an electronic target, and it kind of brought this whole concept together. So as a supplemental tool, force on force, absolutely. Yeah. And that's how you bridge those gaps that, God forbid, you're ever in that situation, man, you're coming out on top. So.
Right. Have you found an uptick in business or interest with this? Of course, we saw a surge 4 years ago in gun buying, and we're seeing it again now. But just in people, and I think it's not just because of what the race, the campaigns, but also what's going on in our country. Are you seeing people come to you like, hey, I need to learn these things, or do you see what I've seen a lot, which is like, well, I qualified to get my permit if they're in my state, and I'm good to go. I know everything.
You've got to yes, I've seen it both ways. So let's say because I do private classes as well, I've seen an uptick where people are actually reaching out to me, not on my open enrollment stuff that's on my website, but go, hey, Rick, I've got either my family, there's a group of us that just got firearms, we want to learn how to shoot them. Can you do something? Yep, we get all that stuff. And I've seen an uptick there. Where I've kind of seen a little bit of a downslope is kind of for the open enrollment, because the problem is right now, ammo, prices are through the roof, or you can't get it. And that's, you get guys going, hey man, do you know where I can get ammo? And that's been one of the things I've been trying to work during this whole thing, is trying to find ammo manufacturers that, hey man, if I give you this guy's name, can you please send him some ammo? And we're also trying to do things where now we're whittling down kind of our round count, because typically 1,000 rounds is what would shoot on a weekend. I hate to say it, but 1,000 rounds are probably gone at least till this ammo thing straightens out. So we're trimming the numbers down to make it where guys can at least still come out, get some good training. But again, it's not going to cost them a super arm and a leg. So there's just some interesting times in that in that arena. But yeah, so it's kind of twofold, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I want to kind of circle back for a hot second, because, the current tension that we're witnessing across the country, so it's great if you have a weapon, and it's great if you have, some training. But I think, there's a lot of value to what you just said a few minutes ago about just sitting in a classroom and kind of talking about what you have at your disposal that you don't think you have, or what you're not using. And that mentality, that situational awareness, like, we're seeing, mobs of people, coming down the street, wearing, black pajamas with red fists on their shirts, and, modified skateboards and weird crap, and, forcing people to chant something, or to say something, or to, bend the knee to them. And a lot of times we watch these videos, and, part of me is like, oh, why are those people why are they still there? Like, before you end up like getting monkey stomped, like, leave, or, don't sit, like curbside.
Mobility, survivability.
Yeah. And, and then the comment you just made about the cars, like, so, we were talking about Kyle Lamb earlier. He's got a great sexy video, on the 511 website, shooting out glass. And you're like, to a lot of people, like, that's some high speed notional, thing. But, we saw it here in Austin, with the guys, the mob surrounding the Uber driver that just happened to be a soldier, moonlighting as an Uber driver. It looks like, this video that's coming out of Orlando, with the road rage incident, the guy defending himself, shooting through the windshield. We're seeing the video of the Jeep, going through I think it's in Colorado, driving through that, what they made it look like he was driving through the crowd, or she was driving through the crowd, but like they were fleeing the scenes. Like, you're allowed to do that. Like, you're allowed to, like, not stay there and be victimized. And, you're, in most cases, like, if just because they're in front of you, like, doesn't mean you have to sit there and take it. And doesn't mean you need to be dragged from your vehicle and beaten senselessly for no reason. Like, but talking to people about that and letting them know, like, hey, you have options. And setting that mindset, like you said, like, having that mindset that, like, I'm important. Like,
The most important.
I'm important. I don't have to. I don't have to be victimized.
I think the other mindset, Toby. I think a lot of the civilian populace and people that just aren't even in the military for it, that aren't thinking that way, is you fight dirty, you fight however you have. There's no such thing as a clean fight, right? When you're fighting for your life, if somebody's coming after you, in the military, we know it's all about, we should have 3-to-1 ratio. We want overwhelming odds. We want everything at our power. We don't expect to go into a fight and lose it all. I think people miss that. I think people somehow think there's some kind of rules. I mean, there are rules, there's local ordinances and things about what you can do, right? You just can't run out and start shooting people. But if your life is threatened and you are about to get, smoked, right? You do whatever you have to do. Maybe that's run someone over because, or maybe it's freaking bring out the bat with the nails hanging out of it you happen to have in your trunk, whatever it takes, right?
Go might have that. I don't know.
Get the nunchucks out of your son's room if a guy's breaking in your house and you can't get your gun, right? Whatever.
Well, you better have skill. You better have skill with them, because I could sit there and bite you. Because trust me, plenty of us that grew up in the '80s there had our high-speed nunchucks, and got some whelps and bruises.
I might have some, like, butterfly knife skills and some, like, throwing stars from back in the day, but no, like, we understand. Like, you look at the modern Army combatives program, the 3 principles of it. Close the distance, seek the dominant position, and finish the fight, right? And you're like, you can do that in your car. Like, someone's standing in front of you and they're, like, banging on your head. Well, you can close the distance by hitting the gas. And your truck or your car can take that dominant. Your Prius can take the dominant position over that person, which finishes the fight, and then leave. I mean,
sure.
Do you teach that? Do you teach that, Rick? When you teach some of your classes, and I don't know if you get into any of that stuff. Do you?
I do. So, like, especially when we're doing our vehicle stuff. So will I have them bail out of the vehicle? Absolutely. However, here's the thing. I say guys, and I use guys as my unisex term. So that way we're all PC with everything, right? But anyway, it's like, we do not bail out of the vehicle until the vehicle has been disabled. So that doesn't mean I've got a flat tire, because trust me, I can ride on a flat tire. I can ride on rims. When the motor stopped and it is no longer producing anything that gives me momentum, then yes, at that point, I've got to bail out. So that's the first and foremost that a lot of people need to understand. And then I always go back to the state of North Carolina because that's where I live at. That's where I know the law. And I don't claim to give legal advice, but I put it in this context. The state of North Carolina tells me I can use deadly force, imminent threat of death, great bodily harm, or sexual assault. So does it say what deadly force I can apply? Hey, if I'm in my vehicle, why am I going to try to basically halfway? So just take me in some context. I'm halfway irresponsible depending if I fire a shot through that glass, because I cannot guarantee with that bullet going through the glass that it's going to hit the threat there. Can I hit the gas pedal and make me some distance, or can I put it in reverse and get me some distance? Potentially on your driving skill. Yeah, absolutely. But it's all about changing the mindset. Mm-hmm. And what I try to teach people is here's the deal. Shooting using deadly force, it's an unemotional event. And I really try to harp this, especially to my LEOs, because here's the deal. I'm not out there looking for the fight, but if you bring the fight to me, you have voted yes, and you're going to get the full gas. And that's all I'm trying to do to either my civilians, military, law enforcement guys that I'm teaching is, hey, look, we're not out there looking for the fight. But if the fight comes to us, and again, using North Carolina law, imminent threat of death, great bodily harm, or sexual assault, you're getting the full gas, because the state has told me I can use deadly force to defend myself, my family members, and I will. And oh, by the way, my dog, because he's a veteran as well. So here's my point. You've got to drive that home to people so they understand. Understand I have options. Yes, I can use my firearm, but is my firearm always the best option? If I can vacate the situation and not have to fire a shot or not have to run somebody over, or let's say I make that wrong turn and all of a sudden I see the masses, oh man, they're 2 blocks up. Man, hit it in reverse and get out of there. And that's the part, is people just have to get their heads on a swivel. So it kind of goes back to my LEOs, and I love those guys and I train them all the time. But man, like this silly, stupid scan they do on the range. What are you looking for, man? I'm asking them.
Oh, the little.
Yeah, they're little, look over their shoulder because old training sergeant said to do that. I said, hey, man, it's all about your situation, right? If I've just dealt with this guy, because I always ask him this question, because they have all got policies and crap like that. So I'm like, all right, what's your post-shooting, policy? So if you just shot a dude, okay, and let's say he's armed. So now I've just left the firearm out there. Am I going up to close the distance? Am I going to retrieve that firearm so somebody else can't grab it and use it against me? I've yet to get really a straight answer. So it's driving those points there. So you want to do an arbitrary scan. Okay. Hopefully if you're situation aware, as I'm approaching, I've already been taking my situation in. Now I got it. If I'm going to do a scan, I'm going to really do a scan. If I've got to look behind me because, hey, I've got the masses forming around, this guy pulled a firearm threatening my life and I engaged him. Yeah, I might want to do a scan, but you know what? I'm just not going to look over my shoulder. I can sit there and take my pistol, point it in a safe direction, and do a good 360 check to go, yep, we're all good. Now what am I doing with that guy? What am I doing with that unattended firearm? And it's just to get people to think. And there's too much of this. I hate to say it, the internet shows all this cool shooting, all this action stuff. It's like, dude, is that reality? And that's what we try to do at War HOGG Tactical, is take the range, get out of this flat range mentality. Dude, this is where we're training to fight. This is your octagon. This is your gym. This is your mat. However you want to look at it. That's the mentality you need to have. You need to come there. At no point do you sit there and give up and, shake your head and have emotions. It's unemotional. If you throw a shot, don't shake your head, don't cuss, sit there, go, what did I do wrong? Don't do that. Apply the fundamentals and get your hit on target. Right. So, and I try to do that because, again, I want guys that if they are in that situation where they need to use their firearm, number one, they're thinking, hey, do I need to use it? Can I get out of there? Whatever the case may be. But if they do have to use it, they're using it, and it doesn't become all emotional and wrapped up into it.
I think there's these rangeisms too, like that whole scan thing. Like mm-hmm. I'd never seen that before, and then it was like I saw it in some kind of shooting competition, and I was like, that's a weird thing. Like, and now you see it over and over, and you're right. Like, rangeisms aren't reality. That's why we're supposed to train as we fight. That's why we're supposed to put those surprises on the maneuver ranges, and not just sit there and look for Fast Freddy or whatever the nickname of that qualification target
But
was.
but Toby, let me jump in real quick. Don't you remember? I mean, all of us come from the age of the pre-GWAT years, right? Remember? I mean, it was trained. We dumbed everything down, even in the military, for the lowest common denominator, right? The dumbest freaking rock private there was, and it was always the point your weapon up and down range, walk this way, right? We've bred into every soldier that and like saying guys, you mean all soldiers, I mean all branches, right? To be afraid of that weapon. Right, it took years of combat for people to realize, right, the old Black Hawk Down, this is my safety thing, right? But it like that's where it's at. Don't be, but we from the day one we've taught them to be scared. Put the weapon down on the notch, stand back behind your foxhole, don't go forward, take your hands off. It's taken years of combat for people to realize that thing's only going to do what I tell it to do. Right, so we even in the military we come with that same concept. You develop muscle memory doing bad habits in the interest of safety, and then now it carries over into real life, right? How many folks actually will look left and right, and how many people will do these things that they were taught from the get go? It hurts all of us, in my opinion.
But here's the deal, Troy. It all boils down to this, right? It all boils down to training.
Mm-hmm.
So if you set guys up where you give them responsibility and you teach them from the get-go, that's when you start breaking these habits.
Yep.
So for example, we do drills. I've got guys moving forward, going up and down range, and they've got loaded firearms in a 2-day course. How do I do that? Why? Because we use a building block methodology. I teach them from the get-go, and we build, every range session we're doing or every drill we're doing on top of the other. So that to the point when we get kind of to the afternoon and day 2, we can do some dynamic stuff because that's real world.
Right.
And you see guys, and I'm not bashing my competition guys, but you see them, they want to pivot with the gun down range. I'm like, okay, dude, check it out. If I've just engaged a guy here and I'm moving to my rear and I turn to look where I'm going and there's another dude back there, now what am I going to do? Right. Because you've harped yourself to put your pistol over here and kind of do some crazy movement. Break that stuff up. And it's not super wazoo crazy. We're not unsafe. Guys are totally safe. Nobody's getting flagged.
Right.
Fingers are off the triggers. If they've got a manual safety, guns are going on safe. All that stuff's happening because you harp it from the get-go of the training. And that's the problem is, nothing against my LE guys, even with the military, granted, we've come a long way from, is the right side ready? Oh, the right side's not ready, to at least trying to get, yeah, we all can chuckle. But that's the thing is, especially now, we're still a country at war. And I think people forget that. We are still a country at war. And for my LEO, they're basically at war every single day. And here's the deal. You've got to train to a point where you don't know when that fight's going to come. Because if you think about it, the only time we were proactive in combat is if you're sitting there laying on an ambush line. I'm waiting for these guys to come and I'm going to burn them down. Few and far between, right? Everything's reactive. Even when you're going into a structure.
Yeah.
I'm just not arbitrarily wailing everybody. I've got to look for something and I'm still reactive. We don't teach that. We don't drive that point home enough. You're already behind the power curve in a gunfight. Short of me laying in that ambush line, Claymore's out, machine guns ready to go. We own this hunk of terrain and we're going to burn some people down. Everything else, we're behind the power curve. So if my skills aren't there, and then, oh, by the way, if I haven't done some type of stress inoculation where the first time I see a firearm pointed at me, airsoft, real, doesn't matter. I'm not getting those big eyes going, oh, now what do I do? Or if I've got, God forbid, that flat range mentality, you've got a shirt on. I've never shot at a shirt. And I've heard guys in situations, guy has a gun pointed at him and he's got a piece of auto glass between him and that threat. Didn't fire because he didn't know what was going to happen when he squeezed that trigger. So if you never get yourself to that point where you're trying to get your training as realistic as possible, I'm telling you, man, you're not going to rise to the occasion. You're going to fall down to lower than what your best training level is and go from there.
No, that's absolute good word, and we're not talking about, trying to make a move to the net with the puck, like we're not talking about a sport, we're talking about our survival. And if you don't, put some effort into it, and don't put yourself in those uncomfortable positions so that you can make those decisions and have that confidence, you're just not going to be successful. You talked earlier. I want to switch gears a little bit. You talked earlier about your buddy in the truck with you. That's also a veteran. Your dog.
Yeah,
And
man.
one of the reasons we really want to talk to you is because we're dog lovers.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, a lot of people don't realize how deep, how involved, and how entrenched and embedded the dogs are into our operational abilities. HBO did a documentary a couple years ago, done by Deborah Scranton, produced by Channing Tatum,
Mm-hmm.
called War Dogs.
Yep.
That kind of started looking into that a little bit, and you know that was for a part of your time. I know that was a bit of your forte, and I just wanted to kind of circle on that and say, hey, what's it like, working, with a dog, because it's not, what the American people thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the back of everyone's mind, we got these nice golden, retrievers or labs that are, making sure that the cocaine, going through the airports is at small, intervals. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a brown lab or two that are finding some explosives. But, we kind of got, last year, has it been a year, I guess, where a firm missile, took out, a very, very bad man. And, like, so now it's like the onion's been peeled back a little bit, for the pawn, the cat's out of the bag, in terms of, like, we got these badass dogs that are jumping out of airplanes, coming out of boats, doing some cool ass stuff, and, like, hitting targets. Like
Yep.
the first operator to put, contact on Baghdadi or whatever was a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And like, and they're actual dogs. And I know, you're very engaged in, raising funds, to make sure that there's the proper memorial for the dogs. But let's talk about your time with the dogs, and what it was like being on the really the tip of the spear of that, and then how it's kind of progressed, and now how you're continuing that tradition forward.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I think first of all, it's important we kind of understand a little bit about dogs in the U.S. military. So there's been like an ebb and flow. So if you look at it, World War II, there wasn't a dog program. Kicked that off, defensive dogs. Basically the military had to reach out to civilians and get their dogs. War ends. I think they were able to give back a couple hundred dogs back to their owners. Um, you know, Kind of drops back down. Vietnam spikes back up. Dog program increases. What a lot of people don't realize is we left over 4,000 dogs in Vietnam, just left, because at that time they were considered equipment. In 2000, Congress signs a law that we are no longer going to euthanize military working dogs. Um, we picked some scabs, so it's all right.
Sorry about that.
No, it's good because I'm going to say this, right? Um, it's good because, especially for the guys, because I know you get a lot of veterans on there. Here's the thing, guys. Do I get emotional at times? I do, and I'm very open about it because I think guys need to understand we've dealt with stuff, we've seen stuff. But here's the deal. If you look at the way I talked earlier, does it affect me? It doesn't. And, here's the thing. Talk to your mates, get it out there. Hey, you got your bracelets on, support it. Talk about your buddies, man, because that's the healing process. And here's the thing. It actually gets easier with time. So we're good. It kind of, you flick some memories in there. That's all right. But really 2000, Congress goes, hey, we're no longer going to euthanize military working dogs. That's how come I've got Duco, which I'm super grateful for. So long story short, GWOT kicks off, and now we start seeing this increase of using military working dogs. So within the soft side, we had to run dual purpose dogs, so obviously apprehension and then explosives, just because we couldn't be running around with the fleet of dogs. Didn't have the manpower, aircraft when you're flying, you're looking to cut down your weight, everything like that. Guys are going to say, I can't give you a definitive number of the number of brothers, sons, fathers that are here today because of those dogs. If you're ever in Fayetteville, North Carolina, go out to the Airborne Special Operations Museum. You will see the SOF K9 Memorial with all the pavers out there, dogs that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. So the things that these dogs have done, absolutely incredible on the battlefield. We asked them repeatedly to go, in harm's way. So for me as a handler, I was his advocate. Trust me, I had no problems if it made sense to send my dog. And if he got killed, I would rather be him than, one of my mates. But at the same token, I had to be smart. Does it make any sense to launch this dog into a house? We already know there's 10 foreign fighters in there. Nope, it doesn't. So, I just know he's going to go to his demise. So if I need him the next night, I don't have him. So now we've got to sit there and go, all right, we got to get another course of action. But at the same token, if we did a call out, people come out, whatever. Now, before we go in there, who's going in there? That dog's going in there. So he's going to do an initial scan, just make sure all's good. Comes back out, links up with the guys, and then, oh, by the way, he's still running with the boys again. So the ability of that canine's nose, and one of the stories, before I was a handler, I was actually working with one of the dog teams. We're out chasing a squirter, and you've got the $1 million eye in the sky going, hey, my man went left, or excuse me, my man went right. And the dog's indicating, he's to the left. Well, we go off for technology thinking that's the way to go to the right. No, my man was actually to the left. And then, oh, by the way, eye in the sky goes, yeah, he just boogied out from over here. And the dog was indicating. That was before I was a handler. So it was a good point, just to kind of understand that capability. But these dogs, I mean, absolutely incredible. And they are fully 100% part of the team. So it's just not you're bringing a dog. This dog's on the manifest. God forbid he gets injured. He's got the same medevac capability as, his two-leg human counterpart. If he does get wounded, he's going to the cash or mash, whatever the case may be. He's got U.S. surgeons that are going to work on him. So it's just not some old piece of ash and trash, hey, piece of equipment, hey, it's busted up, get rid of it, no big deal. No, it's a big deal. And oh, by the way, when you do lose a dog, you have very much a memorial service, just like you would your human counterpart, because they are that much embedded and they are that much part of the team.
Did you find a change in opinion? Did you see it maybe one time when you first started working with military working dogs, of people still looked at them, or maybe people not in your unit, higher commanders that you were supporting, look at them like a piece of equipment and be like, just set what, it doesn't matter? And if you did you ever see that change?
So you've seen it where people were ignorant, right? In the fact of, well, send the dog in there. Well, no, we got 10 guys in there. It's not going to do anything. So that's when you've got to become the advocate and just go, well, what results are we getting? Nothing. Nothing's going to change by sending the dog in there. But what you've seen with the dogs is kind of funny. You see the pro dog guys, and I very much believe they're the ones that have had their lives saved by the dogs. You kind of see the anti-dog guys, and they're probably either the ones that's been bit by the dogs, because occasionally it happens, or they've just never been in that situation, where the dog saved them. So, but for the most part, man, I would say the majority of people, they are 100% behind the dogs, support the dogs, and they want that dog. That's the key thing. They want that dog with them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be. I can't imagine, as a leader, as you, we've all been in combat where we know we are putting soldiers, we're sending soldiers to accomplish a mission, and sometimes we know that mission is not look good. Like, it's, we're pretty confident some are coming back, not coming back walking. That it's at some degree, I imagine, as their handler and their advocate, and yes, their dog, there's got to be some kind of conflict internally, whether it's realized then or later, when you send that dog in, knowing, because it is like a fellow brother veteran. It's also kind of, partially probably like a pet, but you care for it, you advocate, you've worked with it. It's sometimes, you're sending it in there. Maybe you don't know if it's 10 guys, but it, you're probably you may be sending it to a real bad spot. That it's got to be somewhat of a conflict, and it's got to be something I imagine it's going to be dealt with.
Yeah. So here's the thing. It's not. He was never really looked at as a pet. To me, it was an extension of me. And, you talk about, the structure. I can't ever say there was a time that I sent him in a structure where I was like, I don't feel good about this one. You felt pretty good on that. It's really when you're going out to chase the squirter where a guy has bolted from that target building. Now we're going to hunt him down. Now you kind of get, all right, is he out there by himself? Is he out there with others? And we've had it where the dogs have found people we thought we were only looking for one. Next, he grabs one kind of along the way. And the thing is, he's in the fight for a little bit on his own because he's out in front.
Because he takes
and
off.
I got it.
Yeah.
And I got it. but we train them that way. So, hey, man, they're independent. They're going to be in that fight for a while. And trust me, they will take some abuse and not get off that bite, man. So, but at the same token, it's now we've got to give him that support. We've got to close that distance. We know where this guy's at, and then you've got to deal with him. So, but I will tell you this, especially for, that I can recollect, especially for those area searches, man, you cut him off that leash and you're like, God, please bring him back.
Yeah. It's, yeah, that's just leaving so much out on the field, you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but they will find, I mean, their nose is long, because that was part of it, is you get them downwind, you let them work that nose, man. And trust me, they will find those things out there that you don't think are. And it's like, oh, yeah. So,
and that's why they're there.
Yep.
Yep.
Troy, you wanted to ask about the other dogs?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I will. Did you have something?
No, well, I was just gonna close up the. So you were able to get Ducko and
Duco.
like Duco, pardon me, and
Nope, it's all good.
That's not always the case though, right? Like, some of these dogs, they come back, they go on, they serve a certain amount of time, they do follow-on service with law enforcement. Like, are you like part of trying to like make sure that they're retired, rehomed with like their actual previous handlers, or?
So you got to look at it. Everything's weird, right? So it just worked out well for me and Duco, because what wound up happening, just to set a little bit of premise, back in 2012, we ended up having about a 30-foot fall out of a healer together. Coming in on target, there were some dramas, here nor there. He walked away, I believe, unscathed. But I started noticing, I think it was around 2015, 16, that he was kind of losing his jumps. It wasn't like he lost his ability or his drive. There was almost like something neurological that wouldn't get those back legs to fire. So at that point, it's like, hey, man, he's not at 100%, and we need to, look at retiring. It just so happened that it kind of coincided with my time. But you got to understand, man, these soft dogs, they live a hard life, man. They're eating a lot of overpressure. They're getting a lot of just bangs and booms, and they are worked hard. And yeah, when it's time to retire them, dude, give them the good life. But the problem is, when you look at, if you look at like war dogs, I believe it was that one ranger there, he ended up getting wounded overseas, try to get back up with his dog. They somehow gave it to a department. There were some issues that happened there, and that's kind of people don't understand the bond that's established. And that's the hard part, especially when you take a dog to combat. And my wife tells me this all the time: the way you look at that dog with those eyes, because honestly, because we've got something. And again, I've been married to my wife, rock of our family, 26 plus years. But me and that dog have a relationship that she'll never understand. We have done things that she will never understand. And that's the bond. And really, like I said, it's a part of me. He's an extension of me. So I had to make sure that he was trained for every potential thing that I could think of, because what I didn't want is him to be in a situation, and this is his first time seeing it.
Like a soldier, you want to make sure he's trained.
He is, yeah. But but he's the biggest combat multiplier out there. So I've got to make sure that he is, no kidding, on top of the game all the time. But, the problem is, when you look at, let's say Fort Bragg, for example, Fort Bragg has a kennel. They've got dogs assigned, but those dogs don't go with that handler. So if a guy PCSs, hey, man, dog X is staying back at post, and he goes to the next post and picks up his dog. So it would be nice somewhere in there, and I got it, logistics and everything else. How do you keep that package together? And I don't know that the military will ever totally fix that, work that, but that would be, I think, something very good. Just get it to where it's kind of a package deal, and you roll with.
Yeah, like that scenario that you're talking about in that HBO documentary, War Dogs. Like, man, I got emotional at the at the viewing of the movie, and I
Mhm.
got emotional about that part right there because I felt bad for both of them,
Mhm.
all three of them actually.
Yep.
You know, I felt bad for the ranger because like that dog and him, had that bond like you and Duco are talking
Mhm.
about. But then, that dog continued to serve, with that
Mhm.
law enforcement agent. I believe it was a sheriff's agency in Georgia or something like that.
Yeah.
And, then he's now with another handler, and that handler got him. And it's almost like we're witnessing this really sad custody battle, right? And, you're like, and the dog's caught in the middle. And, like, I know that ranger could really use that dog in his life to help heal him emotionally.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that dog could use that ranger in his life to help him heal emotionally.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but so can the sheriff.
Sure.
Um, and and that sheriff's got kids, and that's a part of their family. And
Mhm.
you know, it's just really sad. And I didn't mean to, like you said, pick at some scabs there, but
No, it trust me,
that's
it's perfectly it's fine. It's a healing
that,
process. I'm glad you
that
did.
that's one of those things that we like, I guess has it been 2 years since was it Conan? Was it Conan,
Mhm.
the dog that went in on
Yep.
Baghdadi or whatever? And like all the country all of a sudden is like behind this fur missile, and it's like he's a good
Mhm.
boy. I actually think Conan's a girl, right?
Yeah, I think it was a
But
girl.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, but like all all the great memes and all the great stuff and the support, and it's like, yeah, like these are an integral part of our force. Like they are part of our
Yeah.
family. They are part of our force. And I just I, I I just feel bad because like America has this fairy tale in their mind about some of that stuff, and they need to know that it's not all pixie dust and
No.
roses. And like I want to bring it back to the fact that outside the special operations museum, there's the memorial
Mhm.
with all the dogs' name on it, deservingly so, because
Yep.
they gave their lives in service to this country. They deserve what they have, and they are a big part of that. When I grew up as a small kid in northern British Columbia, a police dog got killed when I was, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old. This is like 81 or 82, and like we had a funeral. The RCMP had a funeral for
Mhm.
that dog, and I remember just thinking to myself, like, man, that's one special dog that he got treated like a human. And that
Yeah.
dog, while I'm sure was impressive, is nothing in comparison to the dogs that are out there doing what those dogs are doing today,
Mhm.
and facing what they're facing, and like you said, enduring what they're enduring over and over. And
Well, let me add real quick. Let me jump in. I mean, dual purpose isn't that is that unique? I don't know, to just the military working dogs. I don't think many civilians work dual purpose, do they?
Uh, some of your LE guys, your law enforcement guys, they've got dual purpose, but they're not so much big on the explosives as they are the narcotics.
Right. Okay, that would make sense.
So,
So
but yeah,
apprehension and
there's
narcotics and that kind of stuff.
yeah, or sometimes they call them patrol. I think that the dual purpose is more of a military term. Pretty much for the LE side, you'll hear them referred to as either patrol or narcotics, and they're going to use that type of framing. Hey, he's either an explosive dog, he's a narcotics dog, or he could be a patrol narcotics. So yeah, he's dual purpose, but
And in
it's just
War HOGG,
verbiage.
I know you train a lot of Leos and stuff, and some of the firearm stuff. Are you working with
Mhm.
Leos on dogs also? Are you working with them on
Yeah,
employment and training?
we're trying. It's you're trying to deal with. Here's the problem. Pretty much every department out there's got a different policy how they want to use their canine. And at the end of the day, I hate to say it, it's all liability. So I won't get into the name, but trying to deal with the major metropolitan PD, and again, they're trying to keep their dog on a lawn line, serving a warrant. And I'm just sitting there watching this dog get wrapped up around furniture, lamps, and I'm like, he's more of a nuisance with that long line. And you're trying to talk to the hierarchy, going, guys, we can mitigate all this. We can train him. Here's ways that we can do things that you still have control of that dog, because they're always worried about, that liability. And to me, I saw the liability watching the handler trying to untie this 30-foot long leash off the coffee table because it's wrapped 3 times around there, or dragging some lamp, because we were doing it in a realistic building that had furniture and everything else. And it's like, guys,
Or tripping
this is
somebody.
not advantageous.
I
Yeah,
mean,
because some council member, saw a video of a dog wrecking somebody. So he's like, not on my watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's no idea.
Do
Yeah.
do you
Hey,
see? I think I know what you asked about earlier, Toby. I had a brain fart, but I mean, obviously, Toby talked about how once Conan's story came out, and people see movies, no matter what they are, about Afghanistan or Iraq, and maybe they see a working dog, but and then I think what your opinions are. People sometimes mix those up with service dogs, and then mix those up with emotional support animals, and people see a vest, or maybe they just see a dog sitting in the airplane and think. I mean, especially maybe not so much a poodle or Pekingese, but maybe a sizable dog. They may look at it and go, "Oh, that must be one of those service dogs." Do you get questions about it? People get confused, and also just what's your opinion on those three classifications?
Yeah. So first to start, we'll dub it the working dog, right? So obviously, current news, dogs doing great things, and everyone goes out there, and especially, the Malinois, everyone wants to buy one. Granted, I'm a little more leaning towards the Dutch Shepherd because that's what Duco is, but that's here nor there. But, everyone wants to run out and buy a Mally. And then they sit there and you saw all these things, shortly after that event, all these things start popping up on social. Man, this dog just ate my couch. He ate my wall. They are high drive dogs.
Yeah.
So, you ask people, number one, why do you want to get them? Do you have the time invested? Because let's say hypothetically you stick this guy in a freaking kennel all day, he's going to come out freaking bonkers if he doesn't eat through it and start destroying your house. So you got to sit there and go, why are you getting this particular breed? Just don't get it because it's cool. That's just kind of my 2 cents on the working dog thing. Same thing with the protection dog. If you want one that bites or something for your family, you've got to be trained with that because you've got basically walking liability walking around. So think about this. The dog doesn't know that the little 6-year-old kid with the puffy jacket in the wintertime, man, sure looks like a bite suit to me. Let me go tag him. Then you got dramas. So, as far as the service dog, people don't understand service dogs. They're there to assist that individual depending kind of whatever their disability is. So, for example, you've seen kind of an increase in Great Danes, believe it or not, in service dogs because they sit up taller, and especially guys that, have TBIs, got some vestibular issues where their balance isn't there. They're basically have that big old handle and that big dog that can help this guy actually maneuver or walk so he's not losing his balance.
It's like a walking cane. He's a walking cane.
Pretty much. Yeah. And then sometimes, they're dubbing in there too is that emotional support where, yes, you got a service dog, but he's also, depending what you got going on, it's that soothing part, or potentially you think that, hey, because I've got this dog, I've got a little more protection, or things aren't going to happen to me. And then you kind of got that last case of just that emotional dog where, hey, you've got some type of trauma. And it's not always, for our veterans. You've seen some people that have had sexual assaults that, they need that animal to kind of help them, because they're dealing with some emotional baggage. So the problem is, at the end of the day, everything kind of gets wrapped up. Everyone tries to grab things. And then next, everyone's, oh, I need a service dog. I need this, I need a working dog. Hey man, you've got to look at it for your lifestyle. I have a retired SOF, canine here. Could he easily dub as my service dog? 100%. Do I need him so much for my, emotional support, my selfish side? Cause I love that guy cause he's part of me, but again, it's such a bond that, hey, if I sit there and go for a trip, a couple of days, my wife will tell me he's sitting there staring at the door, waiting like, when's dad coming back? So there's definitely that relationship there. But people just need to understand, look at the different classes and don't sit there and roll the eye, bat the eye. Oh, this guy's got a service dog, man. You don't know the situation. But really don't go out there and buy that working dog either, not having the time or effort, because trust me, your house may not be there when you come home.
Yeah, I had a friend that has a German Shepherd from Czechoslovakia and ate part of his air conditioner, like the actual built-in air conditioner outside.
Czech dogs, man. Because my first Mally was a Czech dog, and trust me, yeah, their techniques over there in the Czech Republic are interesting. So,
what were you saying, Toby?
I was like, he was talking about your house not being there at the end of the day. I'm like, I'm trying to work with a little hunting dog, a Brittany Spaniel. If I leave that thing alone in my house, I'll wreck it. I can't imagine something that's got a little more assets and tools to do it with.
Oh yeah.
Luckily, I just got a big bulldog. He just snores a lot and farts, so there's not too much more damage in that. But,
They say they take on the persona of their master.
just saying.
Nice.
But
Nice.
yeah, hey, I think I want to spin a little bit, if you're good with it, Toby, into before we let you go, Rick. We're not going to dive a lot into politics because there's a lot of that on the press. But I am curious because I think, and for the last 2 days, a lot of people I know, I was on WBN today, and got asked what I thought of the debate, and it's just interesting to get different perspectives. So I like to hear kind of what your thoughts are, assuming you saw the debate.
Yeah.
What your reflection was on it, good, bad, or indifferent.
Here's my thing. Man, it was a back and forth, right? And here's the thing. I think if Trump would have just let him talk, he would have dug his own hole. That's just me. Versus always trying to get the jabs in there. Hey, you can get a jab in there and that's cool. Or drive your point home. But really, what got accomplished to that hour and a half deal? Nothing.
Is there any one thing that stood out to you that was like, that was solid, like that was from any side? Maybe even Chris Wallace. I mean, I don't know, but
Chris Wallace, let me tell you this, Chris Wallace, he very well kept his composure. You could tell he was getting, hot because, again, it wasn't a debate. It was more just a shouting match. And who was the star of the show? I'd give it to Chris Wallace because, dude, he was trying to moderate that thing and he was having one hell of a job. So
I don't think he has teenage boys, because if he did, he would have done a little bit better. I'm just saying.
He would have sat there and just walked up there and go, "Hey, you two, boom, shut up." But no, it was just, I don't know, what the Trump strategy was. Always getting the jabs in there, but I just would have let Biden because it seems if you let him go on for a while, he just kind of stutters off into whatever. So
yeah. Okay,
that would have been my advice is, hey, let him try to go down a road. And when he starts forgetting even where he's at or whatever the case may be, that's your time. That's your opportunity. And that's just my 2 cents.
No, that's good. And I, my opinion is personally, as far as kind of along the same thing. I think I know what the president was trying to do. He was trying to get him off his kilter. And I think he just, I think he got lost in a moment and didn't know when to pull back. I think he just kept going and go. I mean, he smelled the blood and he was just going after it, and it just came across. In hindsight, right? He could look back and maybe he thinks the same. But I think if, like you said, he could just hit him a little bit and then back off. And I think the comment on the, name one Leo that supports you, was a big moment, because that was the one time he did it. He said it. He sat back and let that awkward silence happen for a couple seconds. And I think that spoke a lot louder than he did.
And that should have been kind of the strategy. I got it. Shake the cage, put the jab, step back, and then the proof's in the pudding, right?
Yeah.
Because eventually, when you start stuttering above, hey man, you got nothing. So
yeah. Toby, do you have anything on politics you want to hit on, or we're gonna get ready to?
I was embarrassed. We've all met some amazing, brilliant people in this fine country, and we've worked with them, we've witnessed them, we've bought tickets to listen to them speak. It's just sad that that's what was offered. Normally we've had a lot of opportunities of different types of different subject matters to kind of go through and help make a decision. With the way everyone's playing this COVID, we're not getting the opportunities to see what our options are. And then when we actually do get to see what our options are, we saw, like you said, a couple of like prepubescents, arguing over something. There were some good zingers. There were some good things made on, almost both sides. But I will say Chris Wallace, you could tell that he was like trying to moderate, but I will also say in his attempt to moderate, he gave the benefit of the doubt. And he didn't dial back on or dial in on Biden like he should have. Biden, answered the same question three different ways, and he never went back and sought clarification. He never fact checked him, and he kind of threw some softballs out there on things that we know and have been debunked, like the whole Charlottesville, bringing that up. I thought that was a cheap kind of media ploy. And when he asked him about the Green New Deal, and then he turned around and said that he was for the Green New Deal, then he wasn't for the Green New Deal. Chris Wallace, as a moderator, is, supposed to like say, well, which one is it?
Mm-hmm.
And two, kind of, like when he says like some ridiculous bullshit, on both sides, he's supposed to, like, as a moderator, supposed to check that. He kind of checked the president, but he didn't really have grounds to check him on stuff. But man, like,
I heard him say today, so he was interviewed today about would he have liked the mute button, right? Because they're talking about that, and he even said, "I don't know, I'd want to be the guy muting the president." He's like, "I'm not sure I'd want to be in that position or any other."
He's like Rick said earlier, like the dude tried, and the only way to like deal with that is to walk up and crack their heads together. And once we saw the slot machines in their eyeballs, come to rest. Maybe we could have had a conversation, but you can't moderate the president of the United States because like it's the president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just like, in, a press conference with the champion, the heavyweight champion of the world, like, and you're the promoter, like he's still the heavyweight champion of the world. You might be the promoter and you might be lining up the fight and you might be like, trying to promote the fight, but the reality is like he's the fight.
Yeah.
Like, and so like how do you deal with that? And I didn't envy him, but I was kind of saddened. Like,
well, you hit on it through the softballs, right? If you're going to ask something that's non-proven and controversial, like the taxes, right, which had only came out 2 days prior. But you're not going to ask Biden about his son and $3.5 million from a Russian mayor's wife. I mean, if you're going to say I'm going to hit one on a very controversial, unproven topic or unverified, then you kind of got to hit the other one. You can't just throw zingers that one way, right? And ask about you only paid $700 something, and to me that was very unfair, right?
And back to that,
right? But yeah, so interesting. Yeah, it will. I can tell you, I think I looked at back the 2016 debate, and Hillary won 60-something% to 30-something% in that debate, and I think I would not put it past him that he's got nowhere, that the president has nowhere to go but up on this. I mean, if you think about the post commentary, even the next day, most people on the left, even the hard left news outlets, were kind of like, wow, look, Biden. I mean, that was the surprise, was that he came and talked well, which should not be that should be expected. You should not be like commenting about how good the candidate you support actually showed up and knew what room he was in and why he was there. But that's pretty much what their comments were. I think if the president comes back and conducts a debate like we all would have liked to have seen, then it's going to look 1,000% better than this one. It's almost like the bar was set low, and I don't know if that was the intent, but I could see that happening as the bar set so low, which is what happened in 2016. That the following two debates he was considered a winner because he did so poorly in the first one.
Well, maybe. But I want to touch on one more thing about that. One of the things that was also embarrassing and is the vernacular going back and forth to each other. And, because that was not checked by the moderator.
The clown comments and the shut up comment, that kind of stuff.
Shut up. Hey, dude.
Yeah.
You don't, like,
called him Donald one time too.
Like,
I was just like,
you gotta, in those scenarios, you have to have decorum.
Yeah.
You have to have decorum so that uh, not because of statesmanship, not because of that. You have to have decorum so that you can effectively communicate with people, because that wasn't for them to like. They acted like met it. They arranged a fight in an alley behind a school at 3:45.
Mm-hmm.
Like uh, the fight in the alley at 3:45 behind your junior high school is for the two people to settle their differences. The purpose of that debate isn't for two people to settle their differences in an alley at 3:45. The purpose of that debate is for them to communicate to the crowd, to the civilian, to the citizens, to the people that they represent, why they are better equipped to do it. Not like who's got the better fingers, who's got the quicker hands, or who's got the heaviest D. Like,
Yeah.
and that's the sad part, and that's why you need decorum, and that calling the president of the United States a clown, like,
Twice.
hey, you do
Twice.
that in a fundraiser, cool. And if you're the president of the United States and you want to call the former vice president of the United States a name, like, do it at a fundraiser and do it in the locker room with your friends. But like when you're trying to conduct business, the most important business, this election is possibly the most important election of our lifetimes. Like, things are so crazy right now, and it's crazy because people think that they can do that on both sides.
Right. It's not because of who the candidates are. It's because of what's going on in our country.
People are waking up in the morning and thinking it's okay that they can go hunt down a cop. That's why people think it's okay to like wake up and go to a protest and shoot a dude in the head because he's a counter protester. Like, people are doing that because we're not checking the decorum. We're not having civility and good communication with each other. And the moderator did not check that. And they should have checked it, because now they open the box. And the next one is like, we're going to hear horse-faced comments. We're going to hear all that stuff. And that's why I was saddened and embarrassed, because like, I think about that 50-year-old guy that's sitting there as a business owner that's really trying to make the decision and understand the difference between 17% tax and 29% tax and how it's going to affect his like business, because like that's how people are voting right now. Everyone's broke. Everyone's businesses are suffering, and people want to know, like, what are you going to do and how are we going to do it? Because like, having a recession is one thing, where you have a slow degrade in the economy and a small uplift in the economy, and you're like, no, like, we like plummeted, and people's businesses have been shut down for months, and they can't pay the note on the lease that their business is in, and they got their house mortgaged to the hilt, and they can't make their mortgage payment. People need to know how that new tax plan is going to work for them. They need to know, like, are they going to be able to open this business? What are we going to be able to have a vaccine? And who's making the vaccine? There was just so much irresponsibility in speech there that was unchecked. That was crazy. Like, I can't believe you had someone like tell people like, and if we get a vaccine, don't take it. We don't know. You can trust the scientists. Like, dude, like, the president of the United States isn't in the basement of the White House with a chemistry kit that says, ages 8 and up, trying to figure this out. And that's that whole message. All that was lost in this child 3:45 back alley, like, pushing match.
Well, it was sad too. They didn't cover. I mean, there was no foreign policy conversation, right? No. Look what we've talked about, Toby, with Korea, and now with the Middle East and everything else that's happening. And there's no foreign policy. They couldn't have made that 10 minutes. They couldn't have talked about it. It wasn't even a topic. There's a lot of stuff that I think is still important to the American people that need to be hit. Maybe it'll come in the following debates. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe in the following debates they'll like bring up the third nomination for a Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, maybe so. Hey, Rick, is there anything else, Rick? We want to make sure anything that you want to make sure our listeners. What, Toby?
Rick, how do people support the dog memorial?
Yeah. So it's the SOF K9 Memorial. You can pretty much go to their Facebook page, and again, if you guys want to donate. So the beauty with those guys is, again, kind of part one was getting the memorial there. they also, hey, hopefully we've got no more pavers we've got to put down, but if we do, they support that as well. They also support handlers, if they do wind up losing a, one of their canines, with some of the cost effects, whether it's, hey, getting an actual headstone for the canine somewhere else, wherever he may be buried. Sometimes they do a portrait of the dog, other things like that. So, and then trying to get a permanent kind of display in the Airborne Special Operations Museum. But definitely, hit those guys up as far as that goes. And then kind of the other one I lean towards is the Unit Scholarship Fund, and that is to benefit those guys who have been killed overseas, and it sets up a college fund so their kids can go to school. And the beauty with that organization is, man, all their information is online. So it's not like they try to sit there and hide their financials, which some 501c3s do. Theirs is annually out there, updated, so you know exactly where all their money goes, and how it's benefiting the kids of guys that have been lost. So taking care of that next generation.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much, Rick. Great having you on. We had you on for a long time. Sorry about that.
No, dude, all good. All good stuff, man. All good stuff.
Anything else, any of the departing words to our listeners and viewers you want to say before we let you go?
Kind of the last thing, hey guys, warhogg.com, warhogg.com. That's my website. That's where the upcoming class schedule is. We're getting ready to post 2021. If you guys are looking for private stuff, you can always reach out. So you can hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. The handle's all the same. It's all War HOGG Tactical. So reach out if you're looking for private classes. And biggest thing is, guys, train both your firearms, your mind, your hands, your physical body, and just be prepared. God forbid you're ever in that fight, you will come out on top.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for coming on, and we appreciate you. We appreciate you giving us a lot of your Thursday evening, and stay in touch for sure.
Absolutely, guys.
Any new things happen, new things you want to come on and we'll talk about, you got opinions on, we've fought for a lot to earn that opinion.
Oh, and you have a podcast. Where's
that's
podcast?
That's what I was gonna say. So I've got On the Range podcast with my co-host Mark Kelly. Me and Mark were in the 82nd together back in the 80s, 90s, Desert Storm guys. So it was funny during this pandemic. Mark reached out, said, "Hey, you want to do a podcast?" Absolutely. But on the same token, love to have you guys on our podcast, On the Range, and just have a good old BS session.
Were you 82nd in Desert Storm?
Yes, sir.
So were you in Kobar Towers when they were up on the balconies and started giving the jump commands and they threw the big dummy off the balconies?
I don't. So here's the thing. I was at Kobar Towers, I think, for maybe 2 days, if I recollect my memory correct. So pretty much we came back from Iraq, got in there. They finally gave us a new set of chocolate chips there because ours were basically black from all the oil well fires, and said, here's a new pair of boots, take a shower, and pretty much we were out of there. Yeah. Shortly thereafter. So I don't remember.
I was right next to a whole bunch of guys I used to be with, and they were in 82nd at that point. I was in first cav, and we were just trading, just yelling across balconies to each other and talking shit. And then they did the whole thing. Yeah. Good times.
Well, we could stir up the pot and part of those guys in the 325, those glider guys. So
those glider guys, that's right. I'm getting into a plane that has no engine. Yeah, but awesome.
All kinds of jabs. All good guys.
Well, take it easy, man. You have a good night, and let's definitely stay in touch. We'd love to come on your podcast, and
absolutely, guys,
anytime. All right.
All right, man. Take care.
Right, thanks. Take it easy.
All right.
Okay, everybody, there you go. War HOGG Tactical. You cannot miss it. It's like I said, every handle, everything is on there. He's got a YouTube channel, and you can check that out. You can hit him up, get him on his Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram. Rick is on all the socials. I don't know if we didn't ask him if he is on the old TikTok. I know I'm not giving my stuff over to the Chinese yet. I don't think he is, and glad to know. And anything. I don't know what other ones are out there. Snapchat, maybe. I mean, I don't think that's the thing anymore. He's happily married, so he's not on Tinder. So we know that for sure. But anyways, anything, Toby? Anything else you want to hit on before we you want to rant?
No, I think I kind of did. I find myself like I have this weird bifurcated kind of social media life, right? So I have like friends and family, and then I have like people from like the military and stuff like that. But you know, I feel like I'm always defending America, especially, to like my Canadian friends and family. And I feel like, it's easy to defend anytime I just say, well, we have this Constitution. And, with the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion and, like, the Queen can't just put her troops in her home. And, the protection from unlawful search and seizure. And I got the right not to self-incriminate, protection, from criminal, abuse, protection from civil abuse, like, and then I got the Ninth Amendment that catches everything, the 10th Amendment that, gives the states additional, protections. But like, man, it gets hard to defend this country when the current leader and the potential new leader are just ass clowns, like 12-year-old ass clowns.
Yeah, it was sad to. Well, I really wish he would have backed off and been more.
I try to tell my friends and family, like, man, you have this opinion of America, because there's this John Wayne, Yankee
Rambo.
Opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it as a kid, being abroad with my dad and seeing that American, like, how much is that in real money? And, like, it just, it's tough to defend, how great America is when our leaders are that jacked.
Yeah. Well, and,
like, it's also disappointing that, man, like, people can say whatever the hell they want and no one checks them.
Right.
Like, no one absolutely checks them. And like, that's the purpose of a debate is, to like communicate that and then, to clarify misinformation. And man, there was zero clarification. There was zero.
No, things were said and it got so dragged out and it ate up so much time they just jumped on to the next one. Yeah. I didn't like the format. It's cool they had the 2 minutes, but here's what I think. Anyone who went first, it's almost like flipping a coin, right? Are you receiving or kicking first? Anyone who went first, the second person got to say whatever they wanted and there wasn't a rebuttal time, right? If, in my opinion, if it had been Troy moderating it, it would have been, if you go first, you get 45 seconds at the end to rebut something. Otherwise, the second person just gets to, like you said, say whatever they want. And then that's what we saw some of the interruption. I recorded it and I went back and watched some of it, believe it or not, because I'm a sucker for pain. But I started seeing that trend where sometimes the president was coming in and even sometimes Vice President Biden was coming in trying to say, hey, they just said this. I get a chance to straighten that out or dispute that. And I think that's what they were missing. I think Chris Wallace should have had that. Like, if you get the two, whoever goes first gets to follow up 45 seconds, maybe even 30 max. You get to hit whatever one thing that's the most important. And I think that's what caused some of the disarray was they did not give that because that second person could just make shit up. Right.
Yeah. You're absolutely correct. And there was just some just craziness.
And I want to just say this. I did not like, I'm glad the president cut him off at the knees. I did not like Vice President Biden, knowing damn well that the only son anyone's talking about is Hunter Biden, trying to play the sympathy of his son, Beau, and say, do the whole, my son went to Iraq and he got a Bronze Star and he got this. And I think the president handled it great. He's like, good. I don't know Beau. Not talking about Beau. I'm talking about Hunter. I'm talking about Beau's his brother-in-law or whatever married, hooked up with your dead son's wife, like that guy, right? I think it was good that he spun it back because you could tell Biden was trying to like play this sympathy card, like, how dare you talk about this fallen soldier? And the president's like, I don't know him. I'm talking about the one that's getting $3.5 million.
Yeah, but again, like that never should even have been a talking point.
No.
But
Biden had a note card.
He brought off, again, these were, you had the softball pitch at Charlottesville. You had the softball pitch of, like the Atlantic article. And that Atlantic article was completely and utterly debunked.
Right.
So when Charlottesville was completely and utterly debunked and you got the Atlantic article completely and utterly debunked, why are you bringing it up? Like that was where I took issue with Mr. Wallace, because you are perpetrating misinformation, and you are.
Right.
Like that's like
And you have 76
that's
million
not
people
naivety, and
watching.
that's not
It
ignorance.
isn't,
That's
yeah, it isn't like you need clickbait, right?
negligence.
You've got the whole world watching, 76 million people watching. You don't need clickbait. You don't need something to keep people tuned in, right? You
Yeah,
didn't need to drop that. People are
yeah,
watching either way.
like, but I will say, like, the one redeeming thing or one of the redeeming things that the president did do is he was teed up. He got teed up on that Hunter Biden opportunity when he said, talking about Bo, he was like, I don't know, Bo,
Yeah.
like, because I wouldn't have talked to, well, I'd have brought up the money. But I would have gone straight for the throat. And I've been like, look, man, you want to be the president of the United States? If you want to be the president of the United States, you got to be able to run your house. And everyone wants to talk about my family and how I like run my family, but all my family's here, and all my family treat each other with what looks like a lot of dignity and respect. Unlike your family, where your son dies of cancer and his brother starts banging his wife while he's doing somebody else and knocks two people up at the same time, and
Refuses to pay child, refuses to recognize his responsibilities until he's proven by
like,
you know
you as a father can't like control your son, or like sit your son down and be like, hey bro, like, take the money aside. I remember my dad telling me something, because I had done something really stupid as a kid. My dad was like being looked at to be a potential elder in the church that we attended when I was a kid. And there was another family in that church that I didn't always like or get along with. They were good people, but I just, kids are kids. They don't always
right.
like each other. And so I prank called that house. Back in the day, the old rotary telephone, the stupid jokes like, hey, is your refrigerator running? You better go catch it. Do you live on such and such street? Get out of the way, a truck's coming. Like stupid prank calls. And I got caught, right? And, my dad told me, he's like, I have to resign this position of being in a leadership position at the church because I can't control my house. And I was like, you're being dramatic, but he was right.
Yeah.
Like, if you're expected to lead people spiritually, if you're supposed to expect to lead people economically, if you're supposed to lead people militarily, you can't be corrupt.
Right.
And like, we know that our leaders are, and we know that they're human, and they're valuable, but like, come on, man. Like, and people should, in discourse like that, should correct that and be like, right. But I thought the president in that one situation was like, I didn't know Bo, and he didn't say anything disparaging about him.
Right. Yeah, he did. He was like, moved on, said, I'm talking about Hunter. And I thought that was a good way to deflect that, right? Because Biden was trying to bait him, in my opinion. and that hook didn't set.
He did drop the dishonorable discharge.
He did. He did do that. Yes. Yep. But no, it was I don't know, maybe I'm being hopeful, maybe I'm being too Pollyanna, but I really think that if he comes out doing better, that this could have been a setup on how this was done. Right. It could have been let me shake his cage and do it for 90 minutes. And I know I'm going to come out looking like crap because if you notice, President Trump did not have a single talking point, a note or nothing, where Biden had
he walked out empty handed.
And Biden walked out and Biden did one thing. Biden did good is he stared in that camera. He was talking to the American people. And I wish the president would have did that. He kept looking at Biden or Wallace, to two people he was debating. He should have been looking at the American people and speaking to the millions of American people in this country. Biden did that well. He was trained, muscle memory, whatever you do, stare in that freaking camera. And he did that for the most part, at least the first half of it, he did very well.
Yeah. And, but that's the difference, I did more in 47 months than you did in 47
years. That was a zinger. That was a
I did appreciate, apparently I'm debating you too.
Yeah.
But that's all I got. I know we've been on for a minute. It's,
yep.
But I appreciate everyone tuning in. We got another great show lined up next week. Another great guest, thanks to the unpaid but sponsored athlete, Kermode athlete.
Producer Rob.
Producer Rob.
He's worth so much more than we pay him.
Yeah, he is. He's worth his weight in gold. If only he could help us with all our tech issues.
Yes.
But thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.
That's right. We'll talk to everybody next week. Have a great night, a good weekend, and don't forget this Saturday, October 3rd, the anniversary of Gothic Serpent. You may know it as Black Hog Down.
Yeah, we didn't even get to that.
We didn't get to it, but it will. If you keep an eye on the webs, especially if you follow anyone in the military, you'll probably see enough on it. But it is that day, October 3rd, Gothic Serpent, known as Black Hog Down. Just make sure when you gather around the table that when you say those prayers and blessing and thanking Lord for everything He provides you, that you thank Him for their sacrifice and their families, for those that didn't come back and those that were there and what they probably still had to deal with for quite a while. So want to make sure everyone knows that, and we'll have everyone have a good night, and we will talk to everybody next week, 8 o'clock here on Stu and the Nunn. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.